It's Abby Glassenberg here at Craft Industry Alliance. Hope you are having a fabulous Wednesday. We are live every Wednesday at noon Eastern in order to talk with one of our Craft Industry Alliance members and learn more about their business as part of our Member Spotlight series. And today we're going to be talking with Kimblyn Harris from One Good Seed. And I'm really excited to welcome Kimblyn when she's ready to join us. I just wanted to give you a few other updates about some new things going on here at Craft Industry Alliance if you're interested. So I hope you'll join us on Monday next week at noon Eastern. We are going to be hosting a panel discussion live, and it's open to everyone. It's free. We are inviting the whole industry to join us because the topic of this panel is going to be the impact of the trade tariffs on the crafts industry. And we know that that is something that's relevant to pretty much everyone in one way or another. And we really want to be able to share the best information that we have with the whole industry. So come on Monday. It's going to be on Zoom. You can find that link right on our website under education. That's at craftindustryalliance.org. And you can RSVP to the tariffs webinar, which will be at noon Eastern. And it's going to be a panel discussion with four really knowledgeable. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really interesting and informative, and it will be recorded, but it's always good to come live. Hi, Kimblyn. How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you? Moving the camera back a little.
Yeah, I'm great. Nice to see you. I hope you're doing well today.
I am.
Oh, good. Excellent. So, Kimblyn, we are very happy to have you as a Craft Industry Alliance member. So, first off, thank you for that. And I would love to learn a little bit more about you. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about One Good Seed as well.
Absolutely. So, again, my name is Kimblyn Harris. I am based out a little town outside of Charlotte called Kannapolis, North Carolina. And I have been fortunate to be creative all of my life, but I really only have considered myself a true artist in the last 4 or 5 years. And obviously, I'm very creative through valleys, career valleys. And so, One Good Seed is a product of a career valley. I was laid off during the pandemic. And as someone who has been creative all of her life, I had to come up with strategies around all of the ideas that I have. And so I keep an online journal of all the ideas that I have. And this game actually was written out in written form 3 years prior. The idea came to me, and I wrote it out as an idea that I thought had some fruit. And when I had got laid off during the pandemic, I just felt inspired to go back to my list. And this is the idea that popped off the screen for me. And it was really all about missing community. I love game night. I'm known for my games and my family. I'm known for having really fun get-togethers, and I love laughing. I'm a physical laughing person. I will literally fall off the chair and roll around laughing. So I love the aspect of getting together and laughing in community. And I not only lost my family community of gathering, but also my corporate community of just being in the office and seeing people. And so from that lack, I took on this project of figuring out what this project was and had really great ideas at the front. The journey to get it made, however, was a journey, but it really was all about getting people together and laughing and using these cards to do it.
I love that. I've also loved the fact that you had, even while you were working your corporate job, been keeping a journal, an online journal, even if it wasn't an online journal, a journal of some kind, to record all the different ideas that came to you. Because even though you weren't necessarily able to focus on them at that time per se, later when you did have the time, not necessarily because you wanted to, but just because it was sort of imposed upon you, you had something to go back to and revisit the thoughts and creativity that you had sort of like had to ignore a little bit all that time prior. So I feel like that's such a nice thing to do and a really good idea for people.
Yeah, it's what creates discipline for me of all ideas. I feel sometimes it lets me not judge the idea too harshly and just record it for reference as how this worked out, because basically everything that I produced 90% of it was what I wrote that day, because that's how it came to me. And only through branding and marketing did we change some things, like the name and the container and all that. But pretty much the rules, how it was, all of that was written prior. So I didn't have to do a lot of work there. But I now trust that process of when it comes to me, because I am someone who has an idea and wants to go to Hobby Lobby the same day. I am that person.
100%. But I also love that idea too, that it allows you to not judge your ideas, because sometimes I also think, well, no, that's going to be too complicated. It's too difficult, or it's stupid. Nobody's going to like it. And you kind
Mhm.
of just let it go instead of recording it. And then
Mhm.
maybe it wasn't too big, or maybe it was too big right now, but
Mhm.
not later. Or, maybe
Mhm.
now wasn't the right time for various reasons. So anyway, I just think that that's an amazing idea. So, all right, so you had this idea for a game, and tell us a little bit about One Good Seed. Like, what is the goal of the game? What is the gameplay like?
Mhm.
How does it, sort of from a basic sense, how does it work? Is it similar to a game we already know about? Is it a card game, etc.?
So I thought I was going to get ahead of this. I had emailed you a quick cheat sheet, basically, because I wanted to show kind of in real life. I wasn't sure if you saw that or not.
I did see it, but I can't share. Like, this
Okay.
format on Instagram Live doesn't, or maybe I'm not technically savvy enough. I don't know which, but
Oh,
it doesn't
so
really help, like with sharing screens and things like
no,
that.
no, it was for you to have as a reference.
I did see it,
So
yeah.
yes, okay. So basically, I'll just share the cards. So basically, the cards are meant to be part of a story. So when I created it, it really was about family. That was my point of reference: family and family time, and getting together and telling a story. But it's since grown into a really nice icebreaker and a really nice way to just get conversations going that can be fun. And so, but the premise of the game is basically to use the cards, and the cards are round and they come in a tube. So this is the physical tube that I have, and there's 440 cards in the tube. And all of the words are meant for us to collectively tell one story. That's the premise and the base of the game. And so I will start the story out. And so I use themes, because some of the feedback that I got early on was people didn't know how to start a story, right? So if I were to say, I met Abby last week at the coffee shop, and I was thinking about, our time together, and I couldn't figure out why she was wearing cotton balls in her ears, right? And then, but she was this brown eyed beauty. So I really felt that I really connected with her, even though it was on a cloudy day. So you're using the words to kind of form this story, and you're passing it on to each person for them to add on to the story using the cards in their hand. And depending on
I
uh, personalities and humor, right? There's my bestie Nina. Hi, Nina. You will get to be able to play this, and people are always surprised by how um, adjustable and how people are adaptable to this process, and but also how funny, uniquely funny people are, and it allows them to be able to be involved in the story way. Now, I've done small groups, I've done large groups, but the surprise of it is when people, which you'll see when you look back at the email, have taken it and used it like as quick ways of having an impromptu icebreaker. So the one I gave you today was, if I said the theme was, I am now a certified trainer. That's the theme. So everyone who has cards is going to be able to now use their words in front of them to help tell, like, what is the certified trainer that you become. And so what I did was I used the words, and I said, use the words. I said, I started this year in such a state of fear, not knowing what I wanted for myself. I didn't think I had any more to give. I had to look deep into my soul to realize I no longer want to work with goldfish. I can now share with the world that I am the newest certified crash dummy trainer, and I start on Monday. And the two words that I used from my cards would have been goldfish and crash dummy, but unexpected,
right.
right? Just unexpected. And so everyone gets an opportunity to do something funny with the words. I've used it in conferences. For instance, I'll have handout cards at the end of the day, and I'll say, "Give me one takeaway from today." But you have to use at least one of the words in your hand. And when people have to do something outside of the norm of, like, yeah, I heard her say, and it
Yeah.
was amazing, but now you're saying, okay, I have the word sippy cup. What do I do with the word sippy cup? And I'm like, okay, as an example, I'm like, when I came in today, I was so ready to take all this information in, but I realized it was so much that I had to slow down and drink it like I was drinking it from a sippy cup, right? And so you've given them something funny, something people will remember them by, right?
Yes.
But also you've also created engagement in a really fun way. And so I call it house rules. I give you the cards, right? But you write the stories. And so it's flexible in that way.
I love that. It's such a good idea. And it's going to create a ton of inside jokes. Because
Yes.
when you're with a group and there's some like funny phrase or word or whatever, like even after the game is over, later you are at, happy hour or whatever, someone's going to bring that back up. And then it's going to become like, as you said, something that people remember you by.
Yep.
It's just going to become like an inside joke among the group. And that is really bonding too for a group to have those jokes together if they've just met or are
Mhm.
coming off a work retreat or whatever. So it's going to lead to a lot of hilarity or even like with a family too. I think this is a really great idea. So you said you had changed the name of it. So
Mhm.
how did you come up with the name One Good Seed and what does that mean?
So the original name that I wrote out in my mind, it was about tails. So take TALES. And I was playing on the word tails. So I said, tell your tale. And then I had this illusion of like animals, like animal tails, and like I had went all about this animal path and just was I knew the word tails was in there. I just kind of was playing with that for a while. And so I worked with my marketer, and I don't even know how we came up with One Good Seed, because seeds actually have a really deeper meaning for me personally, and I didn't necessarily was attaching it to anything that I had before. But for some reason, acorns came alive for us, the actual acorns themselves, and we were going down this route of seeds. And so we landed with One Good Seed, but it wasn't until after the pandemic when people started to meet again, and I was able to play with multiple generations of my family. So I had my grandmother, who's in her 80s, down to my little cousins and aunts playing. And I woke up the next morning again thinking about something that was said the day before, laughing, and that's when I realized the seed actually is what's invested and what's left over when you're done. And so for me, One Good Seed really represents the parts of you that you leave in these environments and what you take away from it, and how just community laughing are all seeds that we use that can nurture and grow into other things. So it's now taken on a deeper meaning for me, but seeds actually are very meaningful to me in general. So it really just came together nicely of how I love acorns, and how this game now has shown me the power of just investing time and laughter into people and to the environments that you get to put yourself in.
Yeah, and I'm seeing like I'm envisioning like roots growing down,
Mm-hmm.
that the group together, because you have to play with other people, is
Mm-hmm.
forming those roots, but then also like leaves, branches, stems, and growing up
Mm-hmm.
and out and like the future. So it's almost like rooting you, and then I don't know, there's lots of visuals that
Yeah.
can be derived from
Yeah.
that name.
So the only
So
challenge I had in the vision of the game was there were a lot of pushback on who's the winner. Like, how do I win?
I,
A lot of the initial games that I sent out, because people were meeting, I gave it to people that were already meeting in community. So small pockets of people were still meeting with their own families. So I had 10 demo copies built, and I sent it to those groups of people. And the kids were like, I want to win. And so I had to very quickly come up with what that trade-off was. And so I created this medallion here.
okay.
And what the medallion says is for a hand well played. And so what this means is my motto is I don't believe in winners and losers, just those who have best played the hand they've been dealt.
I love
And
that.
and so for me, the host or the story master who starts the story out awards it to the person who has best added to the life of the story.
Yeah, and I think the group knows who that person
And
is.
only and that came about because we had I was playing with it, some friends and a friend of a friend, and she just blew it away. She just blew it out the water, and it was like obvious, like she blew it out the water, and that's why I want to say, okay, you get it. And then house rules are it could be a group effort that says who get it. My rule is the story master says, but people, they want to have their own. I said, you know what, your house, your rules. And so people are like, I want to have it where if you use all your cards. Well, my rule is that you don't have to use all your cards, but the story has to make sense.
Hmm.
So
Right.
house rules.
Right, right. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So you also had mentioned that getting this game produced was a lot of different challenges. And I've heard that from other people that I've known over the years who have wanted to sort of self-publish a game, I guess is how you would describe it. So I guess without getting into the gory details, tell us some of the overall challenges that you face in bringing this game to market.
So the first, I want to tell a really amazing thing happened during the pandemic. I kind of knew I've been in packaging. I worked for major corporations that have really amazing brands on the market. So I've been around packaging engineers and the process and the idea, and then walking into a store on Lowe's and Home Depot and seeing. So I understood the process of getting something to market. I worked
So
in
helpful.
finance. And so
Yeah,
I understand margin and cost and raw materials and all of that stuff. So I have enough knowledge about what it
yeah.
takes. But what I didn't have knowledge about was like what I didn't when we got to the round two, but like I just felt like that was just like amazing because I didn't know any games that were like that in a round two. So for me, that was an idea that we had. I can't say that was the best idea, but that was an idea that I thought I could work with. And so I started looking for manufacturers, not only to make the game itself, but also, who to partner with to get this made. And I was running out of a lot of options on the US of keeping this stateside for the cost that I
Yeah.
considered what I could pay. That was my first obstacle. And I found this really amazing manufacturer of product goods in Montreal. And I called the number on Google, which was and it was during the pandemic. His brother answered from the house, and his brother was like, "Oh, you don't want me, you want my brother. Here's his number." And he gave me his brother's number, and I called his brother, and they're French, and so he calls me Kimblyn, and we're talking, and I give him, this scenario about what I'm trying to do. I have this idea. I've already, got it branded pretty much. I don't have any other working pieces and parts. And he did the most beautiful thing because I was asking him what was cheaper to put a white box or a black box or a white box based on their products. And he was like, "Well, can I put you on video so I can show you what we actually do?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I don't want to mess up his French accent, but I used to have it down, but I don't want to mess it up today. So he puts his camera on and he has this display behind him, Saint Laurent. It's got all of this Celine. It's got all these high end, like the W brands where they put boxes together for like celebrities. He's got all these amazing boxes. And it's like, "Kimblyn, we don't do cheap." He said, we don't do cheap, right? And he said, "But you are going to have a problem because to get this card made," he said, "is very time consuming and cumbersome. And this is going to be your biggest challenge." He said, "To get the card made." He said, "But what I want to do," he said, "I want you to go out and I want you to do some research." And he gave me some information. He said, "But if you run into a problem, I want you to call me." And for months, anytime I would email him that I had a question, he would take my call. And he would spend the time to answer my questions. He actually built my demo boxes for me so that I had a really beautiful box to house my demo boxes in. And that was just a beautiful way to just like not discourage me until I could figure it out and give me some really amazing advice. And I remember one of the big projects that they did. He was like, "We're building this box for the W and it's going out worldwide." He said, "I can see your game in Nordstrom's. We're building a box for Nordstrom's with," and I was like, "Can we just get it to like the neighbor down the street? We can talk about Nordstrom's later." But he had this bigger vision that I couldn't see about it. And I feel like now I can see the benefit of doing a luxury game night. Like I can see that now. I couldn't see it then, but he gave me a lot of time. And I didn't actually understand until much later that he was the president of the company. I don't know why I didn't know that. I saw it on a letterhead at one point. I said, "Did you get promoted since we met?" And he was like, "No." I said, "You've always been the president?" He said, "Yes."
Wow.
And that was just amazing. But I had a lot of people that believed in it, a lot of people that tested it. The Kickstarter was a mess because I always called it a game. And I really overshot the whole and missed the whole community aspect of it. And
Mm,
because it locked down initially as a game, I really missed the opportunity to market it in a way that people accepted it and knew what it was. So I've still been backtracking to really help people understand it's a storytelling experience.
right.
And that probably was where the marketing didn't really meet and the crossroad is. So right now the reason why I'm doing this, and the reason why I ordered 500 copies. I'm halfway sold. I've sold over 200 copies. Is to really get these last 200, but also to convey the beauty of it and what it's grown into, and really be able to set myself up for what's next for it.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing all of the sort of ups and downs too. And I love somebody who really shares their expertise with somebody new to the market
Mm-hmm.
for free because they just want to see other people succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And God bless those people because I've had a few of them too. And it makes a huge difference. So just something to stow away, like if you are an expert in something and someone calls or emails you and asks for that novice beginner tip or advice or, has a question, I feel like if you're able to find the time to answer them and to spend
Mm-hmm.
that time with them, it really makes a big difference.
It
So
did.
yeah, that's incredible. All right, so One Good Seed, it's ready to go. You've got 200 some copies left. Where can people who are watching this today or watching the recording later go and find this and be able to give it a go?
Okay. So I have online, which is on my website. So in my bio, there is a link directly that says One Good Seed the Game. You can link this directly to the site to order it. It's $35 with free shipping for one. And I will ship that. I also do a lot of in-person events here in North Carolina. Actually, this weekend we're having Cantoberfest, which is a take on Oktoberfest. So I'll be local here. And because I don't believe the second phase of this is going to be this packaging, I've been autographing and personalizing the twos for my other storytellers. So I would love to meet anyone who sees this and wants to come out this weekend. Everything online is published, the times, the dates. But I've also been going to be doing several markets over the fall. So if you see me and would like a copy, but a lot of times people that play it want it, and the
Yeah.
people that are there see it, and they're like, "How do I get a copy?" So I get a lot of word of mouth, and a lot of people that come back later and says, "Hey, I took this to the family event. I took this to my corporate meeting, and they loved it." And so that's kind of been how it's been slowly going. But we really, really, really want to sell out this year because I'm really ready for phase two.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I think, when you're developing a product like this, iteration is a natural part of the process. There's going to be phase two, phase three, new packaging, different ways to orient things as you learn and go and find new sourcing and new
Mm-hmm.
pricing and all the rest. I mean, it's a long process, and I think it's important to sort of accept that at the outset. Like it's not going to be one and done. It's going to be something that evolves over time. But I also agree with you that I feel like once people sit and play it, everybody who's at that table or in that room is going to then want to go get it. So
Right.
that's really the best way to sort of begin that word of mouth. And word of mouth is, as we all know, the strongest form of advertising. So that's super smart. So Kimblyn, this is great. Congratulations to you for like all the work and also just for having such a good idea. And I have a daughter who goes to some social skills groups and they work together in a group and
Mm-hmm.
play a lot of games that involve conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
fundamental part of social skills
Yep.
groups. And this would be an ideal game for them. But I've also, learned about a lot of social skills kind of conversation starter games
Mm-hmm.
from them. And I've never heard of one like this. So I truly think it is really unique and awesome. And just congratulations to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to being in the group and all the things I'm learning by just showing up and hearing. But it's also an inspiration to keep going because you do
Yeah.
feel stuck in your creative cycle. And definitely, I feel like this is my year. I opted to do the 500, but I promise you, when I called my manufacturer, who actually is the manufacturer for some of the top games in the world, I asked for 10,000 units to be priced out.
Wow, that's amazing. And as you should, you got to go big. Like, that's the way to go. And we want to get them out to independent toy stores and to people who run conferences and
Hmm.
also to people who do social skills groups apparently and to all kinds of different people who need, and want to have fun conversations in groups.
Well, I'm gonna write that down. I didn't have that on my list, but I didn't know those. I
Yeah.
I needed to just hear that word, the social skills group. So I need to write
Social
that
skills.
down.
It's also called social pragmatics, but that's a whole nother sector. People like social workers who work with
Mm-hmm.
kids and adults on conversation skills. So there's
Mm-hmm.
lots of ways, and adding humor to it and creativity is what it's all about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. All right, well, I am going to go check out the website. I hope everybody else does too, and just thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, take
Okay,
care,
bye.
Kimblyn. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.